So we'll start a round of introduction. I'll start with myself. So as said, I'm Hadar Pod. I'm the head of startups business development at Deloitte Innovation Tech Terminal. So ITT was established basically 2 years ago. It's a US and Israel platform, but works globally. And what we do is essentially two things. One, we work with our largest clients around the world, help them engage with Israeli innovation, either to acquire, invest, or become a client of Israeli startups. So in the past 2 years, we were quite lucky. We brought more than 50 global clients from 15 different countries. 4 actually have decided to open up an R&D center in Israel. We have 2 great examples of FinTech. So one is TD Bank that are here with us. TD Bank is one of the 7th largest banks in North America. And also Sompo. Sompo is the 2nd largest insurance company in Japan. So both of them, we started in an initial project just trying to scan some companies for them, but eventually they saw the huge potential in Israel and have decided to have a presence, a physical presence in Israel with a lot of employees, and we help and support them. On the other side, we work with currently the best Israeli startup, and quite selectively, we try to locate the ones that can scale globally, and we really nurture them and help them in terms of product market fit and additional things, and try to take them to penetrate the US market, the Asian market, the European market, etc. We focus on various domains. Obviously, FinTech is tier 1 for us, so we work with a lot of banks and insurance companies, so it's a perfect fit. But also we work with some major, obviously, companies that are looking for cyber. So cyber is also a prominent domain for us, also life science and healthcare, retail, etc. So we'll start with you guys, and then we'll move to the questions.
Sure. I'm Chen Amit, co-founder and CEO of Tipalti. Tipalti automates payment operations for mid-market companies. Payment operations for us is anything that starts from onboarding suppliers, vetting them, AML, KYC, tax compliance, offering the payment methods to pay the suppliers, managing currencies for our customers, managing currencies for the supplier, payment execution, invoice processing, invoice capture automation, PO matching, ERP integration, reconciliation, supply chain finance, as much as we can from the challenges of managing the accounts payable front. Some of our larger customers are Amazon, Twitter, GoPro, GoDaddy, Nikon. They are not mid-market, but we're working with mid-market entities within these large organizations, and we do that because mid-market companies have challenges in automating, investing in accounts payable. They'll try to invest elsewhere and not in accounts payable, and we help with that. We process roughly $4 billion in annual spend. We're growing orders of magnitude of 100% year over year, and that's Tipalti.
Hi everybody, I'm Dan Sofer. I'm General Manager at Verifone. Verifone is the leading company for payment services, payment solutions at the point of sale, processing, platforms. Thanks.
Hi everybody, I'm Meital Raviv. I'm the head of digital channels in Bank Leumi. Leumi is one of the 2 largest banks in Israel, and I'm responsible for all the digital assets in the bank.
That's great. Okay, so looking at global payment market, it seems that there are many diverse solutions for every different problem. Leaving the market pretty fragmented, methods of payment in Africa are very different from the ones in China and the ones even in Japan. And so what do you see the answer? Do you think that the fragmentation is valid? Do you think the fragmentation should still exist, or should we unify and make all of the solutions universal, not just fragmented?
So I think we should divide the answer into two things. First, I think we are in the evolution stage because we are seeing a lot of payment solutions worldwide, But most of the solutions are focusing mainly on the front end and the customer experience, and are trying to give solutions to specific problem and specific audience. You can take, for example, at Leumi, even we have launched Pepper Pay, as you know, as for millennials, and Leumi for kids, but we are still based on the existing platforms and infrastructure, on the old infrastructure. If we are talking about transfer money worldwide, we are using SWIFT, and if we are talking about locally transfer money, each country has its own clearing methods. So I think that the fragmentation that we are seeing today is mainly on the front end. I believe that it will change because we are seeing consolidation of it. Even PayPal has bought 3 companies just not long ago, and I'm not talking about the giants that are getting into the market, but I believe it will change. It will take time.
Our customers serve globally, so their suppliers, their payees are global. At least half of our business is non-US, half is US, half is literally in every other country in the world. It's millions of transactions a year. There are local limitations, local attributes that I don't think can be avoided. There are nuances in whether you're paying a $10 payment or $1 million payment. It's not the same. The sensitivity to the pace, to the fees. In some regions, the banking infrastructure is different. The access to banking is different. What we see is that in different countries, different payment methods work better than others, and the range of payment methods that we offer helps our customer facilitate the payments in the different geographies, the different sensitivities that I mentioned.
I think in B2C, at least, fragmentation is a fact. I think everybody wants fragmentation to go away because, other than the incumbents, but because it helps get things scaled better, and you can deploy it in faster in different markets. I think there's even in, if you look at Apple and Android, when they started their payment service, they used the existing rails. They used the global schemes, MasterCard, Visa, American Express, and they went with it. They didn't invent and build new rails. I think that this is changing, but very gradually and very slowly, due to the fact that the point of sale is becoming smarter. So there's a lot of cloud-based services that you can use, and technology like NFC and BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy, that are enabling to close the loop at the last mile for private schemes. I think the best example is actually there's 2 examples. One is Asia, where Alipay and WeChat have completely disrupt some of the traditional payments by just taking a QR code. But if you look even in modern economies like Denmark, where they brought their paper equivalent, it's called mobile pay, and today it's basically enabled by a BLE at the point of sale, closing the loop for the merchants. And it's now becoming one of the biggest scheme in Denmark, where 2 years ago it didn't exist. So these things didn't happen 5-10 years ago. This is happening only now.
So follow-up question would be, do you think that utilization of blockchain technologies would be a potential solution for the fragmentation? Or
I think that I personally think that blockchain technology is going to be more prominent for non-digital currencies. I think that blockchain is pretty far away from B2C payments. I think that if you look at, there's a lot of friction out there in terms of regulation, in terms of the costs involved in in trading with digital payments, currencies, and you look at the crowd there, the retailers are not the kinds of crowd that can, live with that type of volatility, with, they're more or less very thin margins. So I think that's pretty far out. However, I think that the disruption is going to come, and it's going to come from these private schemes that I mentioned before, by the new technologies. By the way, technology-wise, it's not very difficult to enable blockchain. It's actually, there's a POC out there that, you could do it. It's just the friction is still there not to get adopted very quickly.
Yeah, I think the challenges in the banking system and in the current non-blockchain is around compliance, is around commercial terms, SWIFT, the cost of SWIFT. These are all either commercial or structural, like compliance. I don't think that the electrons that SWIFT sends around the world to make a transaction go any slower than blockchain. You might say even faster in some aspects. So I don't think in that sense blockchain is solving or introducing anything that cannot be solved with the current existing technologies. There is value in disrupting SWIFT. There is value in creating competition to SWIFT, but it's a commercial value. It's not technological in my view.
Okay, great. So various companies, including Tipalti, have taken an expensive service or feature and have basically democratized it to a wider market, empowering a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners. Tipalti, for example, helps processing AP, so it's account payables, in many ways, and acting and basically taking a high price and bringing it to everyone. Do you think going forward, which process or service should be basically suited to the wider market and democratized?
For us, we're taking part of the process that specifically smaller and mid-market companies, it's kind of the furthest corner in the organization that will ever get any resource, and automating it in order to create efficiencies, in order to bring capabilities and to upgrade the processes in a way that they cannot. We continue to go deeper into the accounts payable sphere and find further and further challenges that CFOs and the VP finances and controllers have in executing their day-to-day lives, whether it's compliance, and compliance is a moving target. It's getting harder and harder as we move on, and tax compliance, and now Trump is changing the world economy again, which will make it also exciting. Payments, payment execution, all this. So we're trying to go deeper to areas that our customers will not get resources to solve.
Cool. So Amazon, we just discussed about Amazon and Alibaba and etc. So Amazon processes currently millions of orders a day. Facebook also are testing in India some payment solutions. Apple Pay is used universally. What do you think is the role of those giants, and do you see them as potential competitors or obvious partners?
Okay, I'll start. I think that, look, they are taking different directions. So if you look at Apple and Android, they basically adopted the existing rails. So they didn't disrupt anything. On the contrary, they just trying to make an added value out of their services, but leveraging the existing rails. I think ultimately, if you look at these, they have very limited success. And the reason is that payment alone isn't broken. It's people that taking out the card and used to do it. It's not something that now you take the phone and tap, which you can do. It's not like a big drama in your life. However, once it's connected with value-added services, so you get the benefit out of using it and it's seamless, then it's attractive. So I think that this is what Apple and Android, Google will grow into, but it's very difficult to pave the rails of these value-added services. However, on the other direction, Amazon is taking a completely different way with Amazon Go. Amazon Go is basically eliminating the point of sale. It means non-proximity payments at all. So it's not just not using the existing rails, but basically building completely different landscape. I'm very, I think it's going to be very difficult for them to grow out of their own closed loop in their stores, because currently it's only tested at one store, and even that took a year or so to really bring it up and running. I think that until like regular, just every brick and mortar and online players will start using that service, I think it's going to take a very long time. So I think that approach is a bit extreme. I don't think that that's what's coming.
Don't you think that many frictions and the trust, excluding Facebook, that the issue that happened a few months ago, don't you think that this would potentially be the next bank of the future of our kids? Or
so we've seen what Apple and Google did. What Facebook and Amazon can do is actually creating their own digital currency, and then I think that they could go to the next level of disruption here, because then people could use that currency in a very big marketplace like Amazon has. But so far there's just been rumors. I haven't seen real plans to do that.
I think that the power of Amazon is creating a value to its customers, and they're always look at the customer first. So if the payments or creating a solution for payments or financing is giving value to the customers, they will do it. And once they will do it, I think that we cannot beat them. We need to join them. But it's my personal opinion, and I believe that there are already banks worldwide that looking at Samsung and Apple Pay and try to use their infrastructure for payments and maybe save some money and develop by their own. And I think that if those giants will go into the market, first, they need to fit their solutions to the local behavior of each country. And in Israel, I believe that the adoption of these new giants, it will be high because we love new solutions and we love new technology, and we're just waiting for them to come, not as a bank but as a person. And I believe they will change the market if they will decided to go in.
Great. So we discussed a bit earlier, there is a recent study that I'm sure some of you have heard before, that around 70% of the millennials today would rather go to their dentist instead of talking to a banker or a bank. How do you address this issue? How do you stay relevant? How do you evolve as a bank?
Maybe we need to be at the dentist. No, I think that it's like we have Pepper, and we have recognized this audience before, and we're trying to give solution that fits to their needs. I think that Pepper give answer to their behavior, to their needs, to what they want to see. Even the language is more lighter. It's not a banking language. And these are the next generation we want to see at our bank. We want to give them a solution that will make them stay with us.
So are most of your users of Pepper are millennials, or is it entirely for millennials?
When we thought about Pepper, we thought about the millennials audience, but we see that not that the differentiation between the customers is I don't know the exact numbers, but there are not only millennials, because I think that the Israeli market waited for a new solution, for a new banking. There wasn't a bank here for a long time, a new bank, and I think it's opened the customer's mind because they were exposed to something else, and it's something new in the banking industry in Israel, and I think the millennials are just the trigger to create something more fun in banking.
I think that I learned something about millennials. I think that giving something cool is not enough. They might, some early adopters are going to use it for a while, but that's it. It's not going to be a winning solution. Eventually, you have to provide value, and we've seen this all over the place with payments. There's not a big adoption, for instance, of Apple Pay from millennials. On the contrary, it's older people, and the reason is there needs to be a value out there, a very significant value for these millennials to use it. And I think that what I've said earlier is this combination of payment and value-added services were the secret sauce for that.
Great. So we discussed a bit about all kinds of problems, solutions. What are the biggest challenges do you think are currently in the payment space?
As always, fragmentation.
Okay.
The problem that we're solving is the biggest problem, of course. Part of it is fragmentation. For people in the fintech industry, compliance is a big challenge. Always is. I think will stay. It's fragmentation on one side, concentration on the other side. Like there's a lot of power in the hands of very few. There'll be more power in the hands of Amazon and Facebook soon, I think. For our customers, it's the complexities, the fragmentation, the myriad of challenges that they need to face. Even to make a very simple payment, if you don't have the right solution, I'll tell you send $100 to Russia now. It'll be a challenge and it'll cost you an arm and a leg for no reason.
So do we have any investors in the crowd by raise of hand? Anyone? No investors. So I spoke today with several investors that are starting to look at the fintech space and especially the payment space. Some of them were quite petrified about this payment space that is extremely crowded, especially in Israel, not only, but especially. What would you say to those investors? What do you think that those investors should look at?
Run away? I think that there's still lots of opportunities in Israel. I think that there's places where we're very advanced, but there's places where we're so behind. Just one example. Look at the EMV migration. This is taking for so long, and we're the last country to adopt it. It's Nigeria adopted it 10 years ago. The Palestinian Authority adopted it, I think 5 or 8 years ago. There's really no single market in the world that haven't adopted it, and that's really the way to modernize the point of sales that are in the market, so that they can actually do all this stuff, with NFC and BLE and cloud-based solutions, and I think there's a lot of things we can do in that space. So I think just one example of places where we're still behind.
I think that there is still more space again in the infrastructure. We in Israel we don't have even real-time transactions. It's like near real-time. We're trying to create near-time, but real-time, but it's not there yet. I believe that companies that give solution to the infrastructure problems, even if blockchain is still far away, but it's part of the solution, I believe. I think this is the area that we should look for in the future.
Okay, great. Ken?
Yeah, I think that the payment space is very fragmented, but there's a ton of opportunity. It's not a winner take all. FinTech is such a big thing. There's insurance, there's payments, there's pay in, pay out. There's so much to do in FinTech. It's very fragmented. If you have the right vehicle, if you have the right solution, if you have the right market, there are still opportunities. Obviously, like I think in every field, FinTech is now in its whatever the term. I don't know when the term was coined, but probably. No, the term was coined probably whatever 5-10 years ago. So I think we are in the growth phase. It's a little bit self-serving. I think it's the growth phase for FinTech, but there are still opportunities there. I still meet companies that are interesting, and you just have to find the right one.
Great. So I don't know who here have lived before or visited China. I lived in China for a bit, and there are several places in China that have completely stopped using cash at all. So when will the Western world catch up and stop using cash, and when will we witness the demise of cash?
So Sweden is already there, almost there. In Nordics in general, very, very, close there. It's like, or Sweden is going to be like a couple of years completely out of cash, completely, not just in one place in China. So I think we're gonna see more and more. Canada is very, very strong in that. On the other hand, you have Japan, for instance, which is a very cash society, and you don't see really how the track record to get there. I think it's a lot about culture and tradition. You look at a very modern country like Germany, and they're like very cash market. So it's really about the tradition, about what the society is all about. But I think we're going to see more and more countries go out of cash. There's obvious benefits for this.
What's your estimation in terms of years? How many years until we will stop
in Israel?
eventually?
For Israel? To go there?
We have to bet on it.
20 years.
Did you bring your wallet?
20 years at least, yeah.
20 years is very far away. I think we are seeing for the last year an exponential growth with the technology that is coming in, and I'm not a prediction and not a prophet, but I believe it will be sooner.
Okay. Any guesses?
In Israel, yeah, I would get I would echo the 20-year guess. I think there are a lot of benefits. India had some limits for tax evasion. Israel had some limits, I think above whatever 5, 10, 15, I forget the number, in order to stop tax evasion. You mentioned Japan and Germany as cash societies. I think maybe because the culture is more compliant and less trying to game the system. But yeah, we're getting there. It's more efficient, makes more sense. It'll happen.
Very positive here. Thank you very much. Our time is up.